Hey traders, welcome to the recap here, my ES trading for Wednesday, June the 22nd. And really good day here, actually a little bit surprising to me how good a day it was. I didn't really expect too many big moves. It's always, can always happen, but with the big Brexit vote happening tomorrow, definitely a possibility that the market might just range a bit, might be a little choppy, a little bit of whipsaw action, that sort of thing. We saw some of that yesterday, which was a profitable day, but not nearly at this sort of level. And that recap, those charts will be included in the end of week recap as well. Didn't have a chance to throw together a video yesterday, but this one turned out to be really quite good. And traded 2.5 hours here. Started a little bit later. I didn't get to start right at that market open. Wasn't really anything to trade in there anyway, so we were kind of chopping around here. Had a couple little pushes into some of these levels, but nothing all that clear cut in terms of opportunities. Only thing I would possibly try would be a long in there that would have been right around that break-even point. But once we kind of made this push down here and pop back up, we had a pretty good trend line in place, and we came up with some pretty good buying pressure here. Now, this was a level that had a number of tests, not really a major reversal point, but definitely a number of tests. And we had some news coming up and not too long after this trade was taken here. So I was hoping to get a quick push up, a quick kind of acceleration here, and it wasn't really happening. So I gave it a chance to make its move, brought that stop right in. I'm not going to risk much in a case like this when there's not much follow through, and then just took the one profit that was available and started to struggle up here again. Now, it turns out I could have had the extra point, which I was kind of aiming for initially, the 2 points. But with that news happening, that crude oil inventories, which is can be a pretty big news event, just wanted to play it safe, take that off the table. I don't really want to hold a position in the news. Sometimes these news events can come out a couple minutes early, they get leaked, and then price just jumps around and can take you out pretty quickly. But because we pushed up here, made that clear high, and now we were starting to separate from this area, this is a pretty good spot to potentially look for buyers to step back in. And normally without the news, I would enter here pretty much right away as we came back, just with a limit order, and would just enter. Because of the news event, just wanted to wait and see what the reaction would be. Make sure things didn't get too crazy, too volatile, or that we just shot right back down into this trend line before I looked to go long. So once we started to hold in here, saw a little bit of buying step in. You can see I entered in there on that slight little pullback because I did want to get a pretty good price. I wanted to be pretty close to some of these reaction areas in here, particularly some of these since the market open, and the little bit of resistance essentially becoming some support. So I wanted to be kind of near that to help protect my trade a little bit. And this was one that kind of just took off right away. And I'd already kind of aimed for the smaller target here, so was hoping with the news that we might get a little bit more of a release. So didn't necessarily have 5 points in mind right away, but certainly when it started to take off like this, I was just letting the market carry me wherever it might go, and kind of just bringing stops behind some of these consolidations. And that's what I did up here, and that's why I got taken out. Now, in hindsight, I could have had an extra 2.25 points, taking me up to that full five points that I usually target as a max. But I'm happy to keep things fairly tight, lock in some profits. So I have no real regret or anything like that for having taken the profit where I did here, just with a tight stop on that consolidation, even if it kept going. So a lot of times this could come back a bit deeper, could test into here, maybe even test a little bit lower. So I was hoping I might get another chance to kind of get back in, but didn't really see a great opportunity to do so. It wasn't really clear levels to trade off of where I could see some order flow coming in my favor. And then we got up into a pretty clear area here from the 20th where we had sold off pretty aggressively. So we had seen some supply enter the market, kind of overwhelming demand. You got to be careful of those sort of areas when you've seen one side kind of overwhelm the other and you've seen strong rejections, because those sort of things can happen again. So as we push down here, I did give a quick try to a short, but didn't get any follow through. This was a little bit risky here. I knew it going in, so I kept things fairly tight. Maybe could have had them a little bit tighter than that, but I knew there was a decent chance this would reject. But if it pushed down, probably be able to get down into this sort of area here and bank a few points. But once we rejected here again and really aggressively rejected, I was looking all the way for shorts. And initially here, I was hopeful that we might get an aggressive push down right away. I was kind of looking, as you can see with these arrows here, for that type of continuation. It's not unusual when you get kind of a big vertical move like this to see a continuation of a similar sort of distance and a similar velocity essentially. So I was hoping for something similar to that, but then we started to really chop in here and started to struggle. And since we were going into an area where I know, buyers could potentially step in, where they stepped in once, might step in again, I didn't want to be too greedy and just took the original target to 2 points. If this hadn't have occurred, if we hadn't have had this slowdown in this chop here, I would have aimed for more, would have aimed for a break. But just the way that this is kind of responding here, in many cases when you get this slowdown, on at least that first test back into the area, you are going to get a rejection. So this is what I expected. Now, sometimes this might come straight back down again and then break, and you might miss out. But I didn't want to let this thing come all the way back into basically a break-even point, or maybe even a little bit beyond. So I was happy just to take the profit there. But as things went on, I was still kind of looking for an opportunity to short in here, because I did have that expectation that at least at a certain point this is probably going to break in line with these flows. And so kind of just waited for things to come back up in here. We had a test as we kind of got a little bit of a channel forming, a little bit of a flag basically here off of this move forming. And so as things popped down off of that, I got a trade here kind of off of these areas that you can see where some selling had come in, and allowed me to keep my stop beyond that edge as well. So basically, once we got into an area where I could expect to see some sellers step in, and they did, that's where I started to look to latch back onto this trade and see if I could take this one down. Now, this is definitely an aggressive trade here. It's a little bit of a kind of an advanced, almost a level pullback trade, and not one that I expect most newer traders to take. But considering I was already up a pretty good amount, 4.75 points, and thought it was worth that risk to see if I could get that continuation, if I could get that move. If I lost 5 ticks on it, no big deal. So we ended up getting a really nice push here. Took a couple attempts to make its move, but I just kept holding this one again, consolidating and holding my stop behind those consolidations, running things down. And I was very happy with that result, so just called it a day. Turned out there's actually a couple more good opportunities, whether in here or as it came back and tested into that resistance again, where you could have had even more profit. But try not to get too greedy on it. It's definitely a good result, 9.75 points. I mean, if you're looking at $500 per contract with a result like that. Trading, you could be trading 1 contract, 10 contracts, even more. So it's definitely a good result, and I'm certainly happy with it. So hopefully you guys had a good day here. Tomorrow might be a little bit of a slow one or a choppy one. We shall see, but it'll definitely be an interesting day in the markets.